All right, so we are live. Hello, everyone. Today we will be discussing our top five best and worst superhero films of all time. I'm Diego Coya, as some of you may know, and I have Andrew Hayes once again on this podcast series. I'm starting to do. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm fine. Excited to talk about comic book movies. There's some of my favorite. It's one of my favorite genres of movies. Excited to talk about some of my favorites and some of my not so favorites.
All right. Yeah, cool. I'm ready to do the same thing. Like you, I am a huge fan of comic book movies as well. Some superhero movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, the reason why I'm doing this might seem kind of random, but since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out last week, I wanted to do this podcast last weekend, but I was so busy with school and whatnot. So I'm done with school, which is good. So I'll be doing more of these. So in honor of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming out, we'll be doing a list of our favorites and least favorite superhero films of all time. So with that being said, let's get started. So Andrew, what do you want to do first? The top five best or top five worst? To me, it doesn't matter.
Let's do worst because that seemed to work out good last time. So let's do worst first.
Yeah, so let's get the bad movies out of the way first. All right. Okay, so like our last podcast, it'll be kind of the same formula. So if if our number five is the same, you can join in the conversation and whatnot. So, all right. So I'll start. All right, number five. My number five is a movie that I'm sad is on this list because I really love Hugh Jackman's portrayal as Wolverine. And this is a movie I was really excited for, but oh my God, this movie was awful. And that was X-Men Origins Wolverine. X-Men Origins Wolverine is the first solo Wolverine film. It came out in 2009. The one thing I can't say its saving grace is Hugh Jackman's performance. Because one thing I can say about Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine throughout the entire X-Men series is that it's been consistently amazing, even with the really bad movies. And it's the same case here in this film. I also liked Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. Other than that, the movie is absolutely awful. This movie has so much awful CGI. There's so many stories here that are all crammed into one. It doesn't flow well. I don't know how long the movie is, but it dragged on for so long. And not to mention, this movie literally killed the Deadpool character. Ryan Reynolds was in this movie, and in the beginning, he was fine, but the third act, oh my God, what was that? It was like Baraka from Mortal Kombat, but like a retarded version of that. It was so terrible. And yeah, like I said, the CGI was awful with the claws. It looked like forks and knives that you got from the dollar store or something. Nah, this movie is really terrible. And I was really excited for it too, but yeah, it ended up being pretty terrible. So that's why it is my number five.
Okay, so my number five is a movie that, not that I want to say I enjoy watching, but out of my five, I would rather watch it the most.
Okay.
And it's not for the reasons that you should watch a good comic book movie, and that's Batman and Robin.
Really? That's your number five?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Batman and Robin. I love Batman. He's definitely one of my favorite superheroes.
He's my favorite superhero, honestly.
Yeah, and same with the character of Bruce Wayne. And I love George Clooney. And this was such a big misfire. And one of my least favorite performances in any of the comic book movies is Arnold Schwarzenegger as
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. And I love Mr. Freeze. I love Poison Ivy. I love Bane. And all three of these just completely make me hate those characters.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way they were used. Bane seems like a goon, and Bane's not like that.
He's like a really retarded henchman.
Yeah, he is. The whole like bat nipples thing and the credit card.
Oh, God, yeah.
And all the ice puns, they're funny, but they're funny for the wrong reasons. Like this movie, this movie is watchable for all the wrong reasons.
So it's like a hilariosity.
Yeah, and I mean, I see, that's not a movie I can sit down and watch by myself. I have to watch it with other people. Like, I got to be, like, drunk somehow. Like, I don't enjoy watching this movie, but it's so funny that I wouldn't mind watching it.
Okay, yeah, so it's like that kind of movie where you can be with a bunch of your friends and just talk shit about it, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, yeah, that's my number 5.
All right, cool. Okay. So I might mention that later. We'll see. But, okay. So number 4. My number 4 came out in 2012. This is a sequel, and oh my god, this movie is terrible. And that is Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. Okay, the first one was really bad. That was not a good movie, but oh my god, the second one makes the first one look like The Dark Knight. That's how awful it is. It is so... The directing in that movie, I remember when I saw it, I had the biggest headache because the editing was all over the place. And this is such a cool concept. Like, Ghost Rider is such an awesome superhero, but they somehow managed to butcher it. They had Nicolas Cage play the character, and he was terrible in the movies. And just the story was not interesting. It was mind-blowingly awful. The CGI, the action scenes, the villains, nothing about it was good. The only thing that was good is that we didn't get another one, which thank God we didn't, because I don't even know what I would have done if I had seen another Ghost Rider film that would have been worse than this one. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance was on my top 3 worst films of 2012. And yeah, it makes the first one look like a really good movie, and that's not a good sign. So if you haven't seen it, good for you. Don't see it. So
yeah.
Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance is my number 4.
All right. My number 4 is a movie of I didn't know much about this character when I saw this movie. When I saw this movie, it made me not like this character, but luckily something else came out that made me really appreciate the character, and now I love the character, and that is Daredevil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was bad. Yeah.
Like with Batman, I love Ben Affleck, and I was really excited, Ben Affleck Daredevil, that's great, but, it just wasn't.
Right.
I completely hate Kingpin. Bullseye is
played by Michael Clark. Oh God, what's his name? Michael Clark. He was amazing in A Green Mile. He was brilliant, and he died. So rest in peace to that guy.
The Daredevil Marvel series shows you how to do everything right with Daredevil.
Oh, the Netflix series is amazing. Yeah, my favorite Netflix Marvel show.
Yeah, same here. This movie shows you everything wrong to do with the character of Daredevil. I do kind of like when when he's not Daredevil and when he's Matt Murdock, and when he's being an attorney, but not that much to save the movie. I found that more interesting than him actually being Daredevil and whatnot. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, spoiler alert, that will not be in my top 5 worst, but I do find that movie terrible. And like Andrew said, thank God they have the Netflix series. Netflix series is absolutely incredible. Like I said, it's one of my favorite Netflix TV shows. So if you have not seen a Netflix show, please do. You'll be doing yourself a huge favor. Okay, so that was our number 4. Now we're on number 3. Okay, number 3 is one of the most disappointing films I have ever seen in my life. I was genuinely really excited to see this movie, and after leaving the theater, I could not believe the cinematic abomination that I saw, and that is Fantastic Four.
The 2015.
The reboot. No, not
that's also my number 3.
Oh, it is? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it together then. So Fantastic Four, for those of you who don't know, was one of my most anticipated films in recent memory, because the other 2 movies that came out in 2005 and 2007, I believe, they sucked. So I was waiting for a really good Fantastic Four movie. And when they announced that they had the director of Chronicle, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated films of the decade, it's probably my favorite found footage film, and they had the writer from X-Men Days of Future Past, and they had a really good cast. So I was thinking, wow, they could probably finally get this right. And oh my God, this movie was so boring. It was so uneventful. And the first two acts are bad, but the third act is what makes it absolutely, it makes it a nightmare. The third act has some of the worst finales I've ever seen. Doctor Doom, what did they do to Doctor Doom? That was, I mean, not only did he look like a comedian person trying to portray a villain, but his powers were so dumb, and the whole movie was so boring. And it's it's not on my list because of how disappointed I was with this film. It's because of how absolutely atrocious the film turned out to be. So what do you have to say, Andrew, about this movie?
I really do like Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, and it's a atrocity that they're in this film. Like you said, the Act 1 and Act 2 are bad, but when I was watching, I'm like, all right, there's hope in the third act, but it completely falls apart by the third act, and that third act was just so bad, there was just no saving this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And Dr. Doom, like, I don't know what was going on with him.
Toby Kebbell played him.
Yeah.
A really good actor. And the thing with this movie, though, it's the same problem that X-Men Origins Wolverine had, and that is that the studio interfered with this movie so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was way too much studio interference. Josh Trank, the director of the movie, after the film was released, he wrote on Twitter that he made a really cool movie, but the studio just messed it up, and he had a different version of it. And I would have loved to have seen that version, but I guess Fox really doesn't want Marvel Studios to have Fantastic Four, so we got this movie.
And it's a bad thing when the first version, the 2005 version of Fantastic Four, is the best Fantastic Four movie that we have.
Yeah, I was shocked to even think that this new one was actually worse than the other two.
I was like, oh, even if this is not as good as I want it to be, at least it could be better than the first one and Rise of the Silver Surfer. But
yeah, ended up being one of the worst comic book movies of all time.
Yeah. But
like I said, I don't blame Josh Trank because, like I said, if you have not seen Chronicle, I would definitely recommend it. It's just one of those unfortunate cases where the directors cannot, they couldn't have their full vision of their own version of the movie out there. So, yeah, the movie was really boring. It was awful. Yeah, same thing happened with David Ayer with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, which that didn't make my list, but
it didn't make my list either. But I don't like that movie. So
yeah, which is yeah.
All right, so that was our number 3. So now we're on to number 2. Now, number 2 is a movie Andrew mentioned, and I was really surprised that he had it at his number 5, but it's my number 2, and that is Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin, like Andrew said, is a movie that you can watch and you can make fun of it, and it's so atrociously awful that you can actually laugh at how bad it is. But objectively speaking, it is 100% without question one of the worst movies of all time. They really killed the Batman series with that movie, because Tim Burton had his first 2 films, which were good. Then Batman Forever came out. That wasn't good. But then Batman and Robin just took it to a whole new level of disaster.
And how long did it take for them to make Batman Begins?
It took them, I believe, 8 years, because Batman Begins came out in 2005. So Christopher Nolan literally had to revive the series.
Yeah, and there's so many stories on what they had wanted to do with the Batman, but they just couldn't do it. And
right. Yeah.
I think Batman and Robin has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, definitely. It was, oh my God. I mean, Andrew pretty much covered it all, but George Clooney, I like George Clooney a lot, but man, his portrayal as Batman was not good in the slightest. And Chris O'Donnell, I believe he played Robin as well. No one really did a good job in this movie, especially the absolutely awful dialogue. And they really butchered Bane.
Yeah.
Really terribly.
God. And I love Bane.
Yeah, same. And Mr. Freeze, even though, Andrew said, the lines he delivers, they're funny, but not in a good way. It's I really can't believe he just said that. The puns are so absolutely awful, but
yeah.
I mean, and I'm sorry. I was going to say Jim Carrey, but that's Batman Forever. Who is Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. I like Uma Thurman, just not in this movie. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that maybe it's going for that '90s cheesy kind of theme or whatever, but the simple fact of the matter is that the movie is absolutely it's not good. Okay, it's garbage. And I know many people have this as their number one. I'm surprised it's not my number one, but there is in fact a movie that I hated even more than Batman and Robin. So Batman and Robin's my number two. Yeah, not a good movie at all.
All right, my number two is also, I guess, in the realm of Batman. A character that I also really like was, and that's Catwoman. Fuck this movie.
Oh my god.
You have Michelle Pfeiffer, who gives a really great performance as Catwoman. You have Anne Hathaway, who gives a really great performance as Catwoman, and I think this is Halle Berry who does this one, right?
Yep. Halle Berry is the main actress.
Yeah, and man, I love the character of Catwoman. I like how she's a villain, but like she sometimes wants to be good, like how she likes Batman and Bruce Wayne. And I just don't think this movie could work without Batman. Like, it just can't. I mean, she's a cool character, but like, this movie is awful. It's
right.
Not only one of it's up until I saw it number one, it was one of my least favorite comic book movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
And it's so awful that I just don't even like thinking about it, talking about it. It's bad.
All right. So that was our number two. Now it's time for our number one. Okay, I'm actually excited to hear Andrew's number one because I don't know what his number one is. But my number one was just mentioned. Andrew just mentioned it. My number one's Catwoman. It's Catwoman with Halle Berry. Yeah, I mean, dude, this movie is so bad. At the Razzie Awards, when Halle Berry won the award, she's like, "Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for making this piece of shit movie." Even she hated her own movie. That's how bad it was.
That's saying something.
Yeah, that is saying something. I saw this in theaters. All right, I was excited to see it because, like you, character. But oh my god, what happened? I don't know. From what I remember, I will admit that I have seen this film only once. In 2004 when it came out, and it's bad when I haven't seen it since then, but I remember how much it affected me like negatively. Yeah. And was there a villain? Who was the villain in that movie? Wasn't it another female?
I honestly I don't remember because like you've only seen it once. I try to forget about the movies, so
it is like it's not even on the level of watching it and it being hilarious. It's so disastrous that you actually hate yourself for watching it. You contemplate humanity after it's done. Halle Berry was awful as Catwoman. The story was so dumb. It wasn't intriguing in the slightest. There is no positives to say about Catwoman. Like nothing. I think it's just best that we just forget that it ever existed, even except for like the sake of now, because I'm telling you, my least favorite comic book movie of all time. It is not good. So, Catwoman's my number one. Hated it with a passion.
Okay, my number one has already been mentioned. It features one of my favorite actors of all time, my favorite comic book character of all time, and that's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Wow, that's your least favorite. That's crazy.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. It may not. Like Catwoman, Fantastic Four, they may be worse, but I hate this movie so much because I love Hugh Jackman. I love Wolverine. It was a disgrace to the character of Wolverine to make this movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does make sense.
And I Deadpool, like you said, it ruined Deadpool. It took them 7 years.
Oh my god!
To make a Deadpool movie, and this ruined the Deadpool character. And like, I love the X-Men, I love Wolverine, and I was really excited because I'm like, they're giving an origin story of Wolverine. I love Wolverine, and they completely ruined it.
Yeah.
And Liev Schreiber, who I really like, I didn't like him in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I'm not saying like he was a great character, but I thought as an actor he was fine with what he was given.
Yeah, and I think it ruined the character of Sabretooth. They like even Hugh Jackman's performance, who I do agree it is a good performance. It's not enough to save this movie. That's how much I hate it.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, it's on my top 5 worst too. I mean, it was my number 5, and I said like the saving grace is Hugh Jackman's performance because consistently he has given his all as the character in every movie he's in. So I mean that I didn't want to take away that from Hugh Jackman because even though this movie was as awful as it is, Hugh Jackman, still tried his best. So
where it's bad because the Wolverine, I didn't expect the Wolverine to be good, but it genuinely surprised me the Wolverine, the second one.
Right, the one when he goes to Japan.
Yeah, and that's all because of this movie. Thankfully, we got the Wolverine to help us forget about that, and we'll get to maybe the third one later, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, that's why X-Men Origins Wolverine is my number 1. My least favorite comic movie of all time.
There's actually one thing I forgot about mentioning it. Remember will.i.am from Black Eyed Peas in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was such a terrible scene when the scene where he dies. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so that's our top 5 worst. I'll just go look at the chat real quick, see who is online. I mean, while watching this podcast. All right, just give me 1 second. Okay, Justin Williams, MC Deadpool, and Sammy's on watching our podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. Yeah, all right. So we are done with our worst. So now let's do our top 5 best. Now, this is the one that I'm looking forward to talking about because thankfully we got all the shitty movies out of the way. So now we can talk about movies that we really loved and ones that made our best of the our best comic book movies ever. So I do not have an honorable mention list because this podcast was on such short notice. I didn't have time to make an honorable mention list. If I had one, there'll be a lot of movies on there. So I will not be doing one. I'll just be telling you my top 5 best superhero, my top 5 favorite superhero movies. So do you have an honorable mention list, Andrew?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Let's hear it.
All right. Yeah, my honorable mentions include Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, Spider-Man 2, Civil War, and that's it.
Okay. Cool. Loved each movie you mentioned. So.
Yeah, so do I. But unfortunately, they didn't make it. So.
All right. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's cool. I'm actually curious to hear what your top 5 are. Even though we've had the discussion before, I'm pretty sure our top 2 is the same. So, I mean, I'm curious to hear what your 5 through number 3 is. All right. So, without any further ado, let's get started. All right. I'll go first. Number 5. My number 5 is a film that came out in 2014. Now, 2014 was probably the best year of movies like ever. There's so many great movies, really good Marvel movies too. And my favorite superhero movie of that year was X-Men Days of Future Past. That's
also my number 5.
Awesome. All right, cool. So then we can, talk about it together. All right. X-Men Days of Future Past, not counting the solo X-Men movies, is without question my favorite X-Men film. X-Men Days of Future Past is such a smart movie with such a cool concept. It has from the original series and the new series, and wow, it made to such an amazing film. Peter Dinklage as the villain, great. Loved his character. It's a film that engages you from the start to the end. There's not one single scene that drags. It's so well acted. The action scenes are awesome. It's a film that had me riveted from, like I said, from start to finish. And there's a certain point at the second act, and if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but if you haven't seen it, please go see it, where shit just got real. And from then on, I was just like glued to the screen. I saw it twice in theaters. I loved it more the second time. I have it on Blu-ray. It is such a great movie. It shows that comic book movies can also be great films. So, yeah, X-Men Days of Future Past is my number 5. Andrew, why is X-Men Days of Future Past is your number 5?
I agree with a lot of what you said. Peter Dinklage is great. All performances great all across the board, especially Hugh Jackman. And it's a very, very riveting film, very complex, I would say.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they handled the time travel thing very well, and that's very hard to do.
Definitely.
I think very few movies do the whole time travel thing well, and Days of Future Past is one of them. They give a lot of people give Oscar-worthy performances in this movie. Hugh Jackman,
absolutely, yeah.
Peter Dinklage, Jennifer Lawrence. A lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. Jennifer Lawrence was really good in this one.
And what I really like, it takes the older cast of Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart. Yeah, Patrick Stewart, and takes the new cast with James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, and fuses them together, and it works so well. And I really like that you get to see the older generation kind of pass the torch to the newer generation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's such an incredible film. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our number 5. Okay, so now on to number 4. My number 4 is a film, Andrew, on his honorable mention list. This, to me, is the best superhero origin film ever made. That movie is Batman Begins. Batman Begins is the first movie in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. It was the movie that revived the Batman series after the atrocity of Batman and Robin. And they really Nolan did such an incredible job at developing Bruce Wayne and showed him how he became Batman. And it has such great acting. Minus Katie Holmes, who I don't think was necessarily awful, but she was not on par with everyone else. Thankfully, they fixed that problem in the sequel. But, yeah, I think Jonathan Crane as Scarecrow is so underrated because no one talks about him, and he was so good in this movie.
And Cillian Murphy kills it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, wait, I said Jonathan Crane as Scarecrow. Oh, I meant Cillian Murphy as Jonathan Crane / Scarecrow character. You can write that down. Yeah. All right, but Liam Neeson, awesome in this movie. I thought really it's a film that you can watch. Like if it's on TV, I'll watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll watch it anytime because it's a film that's so interesting. It's so entertaining. It's so well acted. And it really showcased how great Christopher Nolan of a director is. That actually, a fun fact, Batman Begins was my first Christopher Nolan film that I've ever seen.
Yeah, same here,
Yeah, so, I mean, I have all 3 movies on Blu-ray. But, yeah, Batman Begins, absolutely excellent movie. To me, it's the best origin superhero film we've ever had. We've had some great ones like Deadpool, the first Iron Man movie. I would say Unbreakable, even though that's not Marvel or DC. And
I would also argue for Ant-Man, to be honest. I really enjoyed Ant-Man.
Yeah, Ant-Man was good. Doctor Strange, that's another one.
Yeah.
But to me, my personal opinion, Batman Begins is the best. So yeah, Batman Begins is my number 4.
All right. I also noticed I forgot to mention in my honorable mentions Winter Soldier. That is in my honorable mentions.
Nice.
All right. And so my number 4 is something I'm a little bit surprised isn't higher on my list, but it just shows how great these movies are and how much I love these movies, and that's Avengers.
Nice. Awesome movie.
I never really thought we would get an Avengers movie or something like that MCU could ever happen. And it made me really happy to see, Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, all on the same screen together.
Right.
It's every comic book fans dream to see a movie like The Avengers. And not only was it great to see all of them together, it was great that the movie was just so well done.
Yeah, definitely.
You had a great Bill and Loki. You had, just everything about this was great. The action, the humor was really nice.
Oh yeah, they balanced humor really well in that movie.
Yeah, and everybody great across the board. Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and I was a little too unsure on how Mark Ruffalo was going to be as Hulk, but I ended up loving him.
Oh, he was amazing.
Hulk. Yeah. And the only thing is that I didn't really care for Hawkeye in this movie.
Okay.
But they did end up fixing that later on. But I loved Black Widow. All those guys I love. Nick Fury, all of them.
It also has the best villain of MCU so far, which is Loki.
Yeah, which I think it might stay that way, but who knows? I hope it's not, because
I would like to finally see a villain that surpasses him. So,
or at least is on par.
Yeah. Okay, so that is our number 4. Now we're gonna go on to number 3. All right, number 3. Now this is interesting because the movie The Avengers came out in 2012. Now, my number 3 is not The Avengers, but it is another film that came out in 2012. And I remember at this time period, these two films had a debate and which one were better. To me, a film that's better than The Avengers is The Dark Knight Rises, which is my number 3. The Dark Knight Rises is the conclusion to Christopher Nolan's trilogy. And I know this movie gets a lot of hate. It's gotten the Frozen treatment, unfortunately, where, when it first came out, people loved it, but then out of nowhere, it's gotten this hate, and now this hate has grown so high that people give you shit for liking it. I don't care. I saw this movie 4 times in theaters. I've loved it more each time. To me, it is a phenomenal movie, which is riveting from beginning to the end. And the third act, when the third act happens, I was so engaged to the story, and my eyes were so glued to the screen. And even when I watch it now, it's still like I'm watching it for the first time, Tom Hardy as Bane, excellent. Amazing job. Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, best Catwoman we've ever had, in my opinion. And we needed that after the Halle Berry's version of Catwoman.
Yeah. And,
yeah, man, it's a film that has really cool action, especially Batman and Bane fighting. The first scene where they fight. I'll never forget my first reaction too, because it was so well done, and it's just them two fighting, and see Batman giving it his all, and it's just not enough, and Bane just beats the hell out of him. It's also a very emotional film too, and I thought the ending was so perfect to the series. They couldn't have ended the series in a higher note. Dark Knight Rises to me is a masterpiece. It's my number 2 of 2012. Yeah, absolutely love it. And sorry if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I know we all have different opinions on films, but to me, this is one of the best films ever. So Dark Knight Rises is my number 3.
All right, my number 3 is a sequel to a movie that we just saw, or is the first movie of a sequel that just came out, I should say.
Okay.
Is my favorite MCU movie, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
See,
Awesome
I feel like Marvel took such a big risk with this because nobody knew who the Guardians were. Very few people. Luckily, I was one of the few who knew who they were, but still, very few people knew who the Guardians were.
Right.
Not many people were excited for this movie, but when, myself included, even though I did know who the Guardians was, it surprised me, and it was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
To watch this. The soundtrack's amazing. The humor is amazing. The characters are amazing. And what I like is that they give, I feel like, all 5 characters equal amount of screen time, or enough screen time to get you to care about them, to like them. There's a couple problems I have with this movie. I don't like Nebula, and I don't like the villain.
Yeah, that was my main flaw with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's a very common thing in the MCU. The villain sucks.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating,
But, Star-Lord, and especially, Groot and Rocket, and just really all 5 of them really kind of make up for that for me.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, that's the only flaw I have with the first Guardians.
And Michael Rooker, I loved him in this movie.
Yeah.
And personally, my favorite character, and I'm being biased because going into this, he was my favorite out of the 5, and that's Rocket. This just made me love Rocket even more.
That's my favorite character as well. Rocket Raccoon is my favorite, 1 out of the 5.
I love the dynamic between him and Groot, and just the dynamic between really all five of them.
Yeah, like they're all so different
between all five.
from each other, and somehow like the chemistry between them is amazing.
Yeah, and it does get very emotional at times.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was one of the most surprising films of 2014, and one of my favorites. So
yeah.
All right, so that's our number 3. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm pretty sure me and Andrew have the same number 1 and number 2. So,
yep.
All right, so we'll do our number 2 then. My number 2 is currently my favorite movie to come out this year, and that is Logan.
Yep.
That's your number 2 as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Logan is a cinematic achievement. It is a truly phenomenal movie, which could not have been any better. As excited as I was for this movie, it somehow still surpassed my expectations because of how good it was.
Yeah.
It has the best performance from Hugh Jackman as the character, the best performance from Patrick Swayze as Charles Xavier. What's the name? Do you know the name of the girl who plays X-23?
Unfortunately, no, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't remember. She was incredible, though. She was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It had a good villain, too. I mean, no one really talks about the villain. I like the villain.
Yeah, he was really good, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Very charismatic and cool. I like them. And, of course, the rated R effect worked really well. And I'm so happy that Fox allowed us to have a rated R version of Wolverine, because it really worked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It really paid off in the long run. But this movie is not just good because of the R rating. It's good because of how good the story is, how well acted it is, how good the directing is, how good the screenplay is. This film has everything for it. It has the whole package. And this is a film that should be big at next year's Academy Awards. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but it should, because everything about it is Oscar worthy. You know, like, I hope the Academy doesn't just keep playing it safe, but, you know, this is a film that I feel that this movie is going to be remembered for years to come. You know what I mean? Like, let's assume in 2020, where we're doing our best films of the decade, I'm almost sure that Logan's going to be on there in a lot of people's lists. You know, not The Danish Girl or Brooklyn or, you know, these Oscar movies.
Boyhood.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think everything about Logan's amazing. Yeah. Andrew, why don't you explain why Logan is your number 2? And while you're talking, I'll be right back. I'm going to get my charger because my laptop's going to die soon. So.
Okay. So I would not only say that this is Hugh Jackman's best performance as Logan or Wolverine, I think this is honestly his best performance ever. You know, he just so great. I don't think he could have been any better. He did it perfectly. And like Diego said, everything. This is just a masterpiece across the board. You know, best performance out of Patrick Stewart. And even though it's a shame, I can't remember her name. X-23, great. The writing is phenomenal. I don't think that this movie could have been any better than it was. And like Diego said, even though this was personally my most anticipated movie of this year, and I was really excited for it, and it still somehow exceeded my expectations. And the writing is just phenomenal. I don't think this movie could have ended any more perfectly. It really wraps up the story of Wolverine, and it could not have been any better. And, you know, it does deserve every award ever, because that's just how truly great it is. I really don't see anything surpassing this as my favorite movie this year. I love it that much, and there's a reason why it's my number 2, and it's because of how great it is. It's easily the best Marvel movie that has ever been made, and the MCU should take note on how to make a good villain, because this was honestly, I think, a very underrated villain. Nobody really talks about how great the villain is.
All right. Sorry, it took a while to find a charger, but I did hear what you were saying, and everything you were saying is absolutely spot on. Logan, like you said, absolute masterpiece. I would argue, yeah, Hugh Jackman's performance probably the best it's ever been. I would say it's between this and Prisoners.
Yeah,
As Hugh
not Les
Jackman.
Mis.
Like, well, he was really good in Les Mis. I
Yeah,
thought.
I just he's way better in Prisoners and in Logan.
True that. Yeah, and there was one other thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah, it comes out on Blu-ray really soon.
Yeah,
10 days it comes out, so yeah, I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray. All right, so that is our number 2. Now our number 1, if you know me, you know what my number 1 is. I mean, there's no need for an introduction. My number 1 is The Dark Knight.
yeah, it's same here. The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight's a fucking masterpiece. I mean, is there anything else to say? Like, this is a perfect movie. It's just cinema at its finest. Christian Bale, amazing as Batman. Say what you want about the voice. I love him as Batman. He's still my favorite Batman to this day. Heath Ledger as the Joker, arguably the best supporting actor performance of all time. Everything. Aaron Eckhart, who was actually, I think he's underrated in this movie because no one talks about his portrayal as Two-Face because everyone is so focused on Heath Ledger. And yes, he was the best. He gave the best performance, but Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face was really good. Really, really good, actually. And same with Maggie Gyllenhaal. I'm glad they got her instead of Katie Holmes because she was much better in this movie. The prologue, like the first 5 minutes of the movie, the introduction, probably my favorite opening scene, honestly. It has such a good opening scene. It's tied with Inglourious Basterds as one of my favorite opening scenes ever. Everything about it is perfect. There's not a single flaw in this movie. Just everything.
Yeah.
And like this movie came out almost 10 years ago, which is kind of insane, but I mean, man, this is my favorite movie of all time. So yeah, man, I absolutely love The Dark Knight. Why is The Dark Knight your number 1, Andrew?
It's not only my favorite comic book movie of all time, it's my favorite movie of all time. There's just so much great things I could say about this movie. This movie is literally what made me love movies. This movie inspires me to make movies. That's how much I love it. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker just it inspires me in so many ways. It's just that good. And like you said, I think it's not only for me, it's not only the best supporting actor performance of all time. It's my favorite performance of all time. It just so complex, and you realize that with this performance that the Joker isn't some crazy lunatic. He actually is smart and has a reason behind his plan. And there's a meme or a joke rather that says when you're younger you realize that you love Batman, but as you get older you realize that the Joker was always right. And I think this movie proves that. And I think everything, like you said, it's a masterpiece. Christian Bale is great. Michael Caine is great. Morgan Freeman is great. Maggie Gyllenhaal. Aaron Eckhart, I do really like. It's good. I think it's great to see him go from Harvey Dent to Two-Face.
Oh, yeah. It was really awesome.
Yeah, and what I really like, and I didn't notice this on my first watch, or not that I didn't notice, but it made me appreciate the movie more, is like the plans of the Joker with him having Harvey and Rachel, in the rooms, and Batman can only save one. And I think it's smart how, he tells Batman that Rachel is where Harvey is, even though, it's where Harvey is. I think that's smart because he knew that, Batman would go after Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite scenes is that interrogation scene.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just and another scene that I just proves how smart the Joker is that boat scene with the prisoners and the actual people. It's never proved, but I always thought that he didn't have given the detonators to the other boat. I always thought that they gave the detonators to their boat, which I always thought.
And the screenplay, the screenplay too, is just genius.
Yeah,
that's how you know. Like that's how you know the screenplay is good. Is when one of the most talked about scenes in The Dark Knight is not even an action scene; it's the interrogation scene.
Yeah,
where it's just the Joker and Batman talking.
Yeah,
and how like it becomes so intense where after a certain point Batman gets so pissed off, and then everything about it, man.
Yeah, it's such a phenomenal movie. It just I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's been said for so long, and some people might be tired of it or think people are being biased, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, that is our top 5 best and worst superhero movies. There is one more thing we're going to do before this podcast ends, and we're going to do a movie review together, and that is the review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So this movie came out last week, as you guys know. I saw it Saturday, last week. I saw it. Now, Andrew, you saw it twice, correct?
Yeah, I saw it twice.
Okay. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, as you know, is the highly anticipated sequel to the 2014 movie Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is a film Andrew and I both love. If you had seen our podcast about 2 weeks ago of our top 5 most anticipated films of the summer, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was actually on that list. And Andrew, I'll start with you. What did you think of this movie?
I like Guardians 1. I thought it was really fun. It expands on the characters, which I really like. It makes you love and care about the characters even more than you already did. I thought, Kurt Russell was a great addition to the cast. And I thought Baby Groot was a lot better than, I guess, adult Groot.
I agree.
And it just, this is, I'm going to quote Chris Stuckman. I believe he said this. This is not bigger in the sense of action, but bigger in the sense of character development. And that's what I really like.
Definitely.
It doesn't feel like a movie that is trying to set up, I guess Infinity Wars or Guardians 3. This is a movie that stands on its own, that you can appreciate it, for being its own movie, but it also ties in, it's going to tie into Infinity Wars, and
right.
I'm really excited to see this third one.
Definitely, yeah. As far as my thoughts go, I thought it was awesome. I know this movie's getting some mixed reactions from people. Some people think it's just as good as the first one. Some people didn't like it. Some people were very disappointed. I'm on the side where I think it's almost on par with the first one. I think the first one is still the best, but I love this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the characters were like the first one, they were really good. Character development is a lot better. It does have some problems though. My first problem, and it's a problem that everyone else has been saying, and I do agree with this, the gold people. I couldn't stand them.
Yeah.
Every time they're on screen, I groaned, and I wanted them to just go back to the Guardians doing their own thing. And Kurt Russell, who gives a good performance, but I do feel like his character could have been written a little better. But that's a nitpick, honestly. And
the one thing I will, you can go. My bad.
And the soundtrack is really good, although I do prefer the first soundtrack a little more. But it has really good songs in this one, really good songs in this new movie. And another thing, the humor is really good in this movie, though I do feel like the first one just balances the humor and drama a little bit better. But still, it's still an awesome movie. Had a lot of fun. I think it's a good start to the summer movie season. This movie's on my top 5 of the year so far. Would you say that, Andrew? Was it on your top 5 of the year?
Yeah, it would be on my top 5 of the year. I haven't seen enough movies, I would say, to definitively have like a top 10.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, it would be in my top 5 if I guess the year ended right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it was great. Do you have any other flaws with the movie or
Um,
anything else you'd like to
I
add?
do got something to say. I do really like Ego up until a certain point where he reveals something.
Yeah.
I thought he was really cool up until that point, and after that, he just became really bland to me.
Yeah, I
You
I,
know,
I agree.
yeah, and like you said, the gold people were just. I wanted them to
Useless.
go away. Yeah, and one thing I was hoping this movie would do was make me like Nebula, and I still don't like Nebula.
Same. I think it's the actress too. She kind of overacts
Yeah,
while portraying the role. I do
but
I do give a lot of respect to James Gunn, and it's going off what you said before, and that is that he didn't make a sequel that was more reliant on the action, on like twice the action or twice the visual effects or anything like that. He made it like more of a personal movie. You know what I mean? Like he
mhm.
made you relate to the characters more. We understood everyone a lot more. Even though maybe characters like Drax and Mantis, they didn't really have anything going for them. But even though Drax was hilarious in this one, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
think he kind of stole the show, Drax.
yeah, my favorite was actually Yandu. I
Yeah,
really liked his character in this one.
Yondu. They really expand on him. It just shows like how great. I think and his Michael Rooker's performance is top notch in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, I don't get the mixed reactions from people. If you didn't like the movie as much, that's perfectly fine. Movies are subjective. But if you ask me personally, I loved it. It didn't disappoint me. Um, sure, it's not better than the first one, and is it better than Logan? Not for me, but still a really good MCU film. I'm really excited for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I am really excited for Infinity War. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say go see it. Go see it in theaters. If you like the first one or even love the first one, I think you're gonna have a blast with the second one. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, or on a 5 star scale, that'd be 4.5 out of 5 stars. Awesome movie. Would recommend seeing it.
I would also give it a 9 out of 10. Also 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's what I like is that it's so fun.
Oh yeah,
And even if I didn't love it as much as I did or think it was as good as much as I did, I'd rather have a fun movie like this than something like, Moonlight, where, Moonlight, I think, is the better made movie. But in the end, what am I going to remember more? What am I going to watch more? And that would be, a movie like Guardians 2.
yeah. It has like I haven't seen it again. I haven't seen it more than once, but I do imagine that it has great rewatchability. So, and I guess you can say this. You can say that because you've seen it twice. Did you like it more the second time?
Oh, yes, there's little things that you notice that, are, nice.
Yeah. And Baby Groot,
Yeah.
awesome character.
And the after credits, a couple of after credit scenes are really good too.
Oh, right, right. Okay, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. There's 5 after credit scenes in the movie. 5. So make sure to stay after the credits and watch all of them. I only liked only 2 of them, to be honest. I wasn't too big of a fan of them, but you might have a different opinion if you had seen the movie or not. So
Yeah, I like the 2 that I know you're talking about. I like those 2. And I also there was a third one that I didn't mind, but 2 of them were.
we're like whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are just the after credit scenes. The movie as a whole, great movie. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, guys. So that is a wrap. That is the end of the podcast. I want to thank everyone who was watching. If you missed this podcast, if you weren't able to watch it at this time, the video will be on YouTube, so you can watch the rerun. You can watch it whenever you want. I want to thank Andrew for being on this podcast. Definitely a fun time doing top 5 best and worst superhero films. I'm glad I know what's his worst, and he knows my worst, and I know his best and whatnot. So next weekend, what I was thinking of doing, since Alien Covenant is coming out, I was thinking of either doing maybe top 5 science fiction films of the decade, or maybe just top 5 favorite science fiction films in general. I haven't thought about it yet, but I would like, Andrew once again, and I would like to invite more people. podcast, I had 2 other people, but the reason why this particular episode is just me and him is because one, this was on such short notice, and two, this week has been so crazy that I haven't really been planning things well. And tomorrow I won't be able to do it because it's Mother's Day. I'll be, doing stuff. So, doing stuff with my mother. So, I mean, I wanted to get this podcast as soon as I can. So, what I'm trying to say is, in future podcasts, I would like more people to come on. And, Andrew will be one of them. And I'll invite whoever's available and whatnot. So, maybe next week we'll talk about science fiction films since it's related to Alien. Or I'll think of an idea. So yeah, Andrew, you have any other words to say before I, end this live stream?
Nah. Thanks for having me. Had a lot of fun doing this.
No problem.
That's pretty much it.
All right, cool. All right. Well, once again, thank you very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys have, enjoy the rest of the day. Over here in New Jersey, it's raining. So, I mean, yeah, it's not very nice out, but hopefully where you're living, if you're living in another state or another country or whatever, hopefully it's nice weather and you can go out and enjoy your day. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. I will see you guys maybe next week. Maybe not. We'll see. All right, guys. Have a good one and goodbye.